Hi, Susanna Anderson here from the Are They All Yours blog at StephenAndersonFamily.com. Today I wanted to talk about how I break down the kids' schoolwork into what they are supposed to complete each week. Now, we use the ACE Ministries curriculum, also called School of Tomorrow or Accelerated Christian Education, and they offer every course subject, and in each of those course subjects the work is broken into 12 what's called PACEs. And what they are is 12 smaller booklets that the student works through over the course of the year. So that already right there divides the work nicely because it's broken into 12 of these what's called PACEs. Now typically a school year is considered 180 days of instruction, or if you break that down into weeks of 5 school days each, that works out to 36 weeks of instruction. So with 36 weeks in a school year and there being 12 PACEs, you basically have to complete one PACE every 3 weeks. So a typical PACE should be completed in 3 weeks. Now, if you find that your student is struggling and is not able to keep up with that pace simply because they cannot grasp the concept or are not understanding it, by all means, slow down and go over the concepts and take more time if necessary. So then the question goes, how do I split one PACE into 3 weeks? Now, there are a couple of different ways of doing this. And the first and maybe easier way is that these PACEs come broken from the publisher into 3 parts. Because basically the way these PACEs are set up is that when the concepts are taught, 1/3 into the book there is a checkup. You could say that the student needs to basically finish the first checkup at the end of the first week, and at the end of the second week, the student needs to get up to the second checkup, which is here, and then at the end of the third week, the student needs to do the checkup, the final self-test, which is like a pre-test that covers all the concepts taught in this PACE, as well as the actual final test at the end. So that's one way of going it with, week 1, go to the end of the first checkup, week 2, go to the end of the second checkup, week 3, finish out the PACE and take the final test. That's one way of doing it. Typically, I don't like to do that just because it does not always break up the pages exactly over the course of 3 weeks. Now, if you want to go with that, these newer PACEs make it easier. A lot of the 4th edition PACEs have these special color codes. So this would be pink as the color code for the first week, and then it concludes with the checkup at the end. And then here we have green for the second week, which again concludes with the end of the second checkup and starts the 3rd section for the 3rd week. Now, that seems easy enough. I personally prefer to split them up by pages exactly. So when I take out a new PACE, I turn it around and I look at the number of pages. This one has 55 pages. Plus, also on the inside, it has a 3-page test for a total of 58 pages. So that works out more to an average of 19 pages for a week. So what I do is I go into the PACE and I actually write on the page number, I would write here end week 1, which is just 1 page beyond the checkup in this case, and sometimes they even coincide. And then I would go to page 38, which is here, and I would say end week 2. And then for the final week, I would say, this plus test is the end of the 3rd week. So when I take a new PACE out for my student, I first of all write their name on it. I write the date that we started, and we are starting on August 27th this year. I then open it to the middle and remove the actual test that will give them the final grade. I write the name on that as well, and I put this out of sight in the box where we keep the score keys for each PACE that they are working. So this will be set aside with the student's name on it. In this case, there's also a map in here for the student to use throughout these PACEs that I leave in. And then I look at the total number of pages. 55 plus 3 for the test makes 58. So that's approximately 19 pages per week. I go to page 19 and I write on here for the student, end week 1. And then I go to page 38 and I write end week 2. And at the end I write test, and that marks end week 3. And this allows my students to decide each day how much work they are able to do that particular day. For instance, we might be going on a field trip or take a day off maybe for a birthday, and it's okay as long as they at the end of the week still get to where it says end week whatever. Now it says end week 1 here. When I take out the next pace in the series, 1098, I'm not going to call this end week 1, I'm going to call it end week 4, end week 5, and end week 6, because my children are always aware of what week we are on in the school year, and they know that there are 36 weeks in a school year, so the closer to the end of the school year we are, the higher the numbers go. So the first pace is weeks 1 through 3, the second is 4 through 6, and so on. So those are the 2 ways that you can split it up. You can either split it up by checkup, or you can split it up by pages. And it holds true for all different grade levels. For instance, I have here a pace for Stephen, and this pace only has 27 pages, as well as a 3-page test on the inside. So that makes 30. So in his case, I'm going to break it into weeks of 10 pages each. So I again mark it with his name and the date we started. I remove the test. I put his name on the test just because at any given week we have approximately 5 tests per student times 6 students, so approximately 30 tests that we take every 3 weeks, and that's a lot to dig through and find, so I write their names on it. So now that the test is removed, I go to page 10, and you can see here the sections that it's broken into. They only have the student doing 8 pages for the first week, and then they get in the red section and they have the student doing another 8 pages for the second week, and then 10 pages plus the test for the third week. Well, I don't like that. I'd rather split it up evenly. So once I have all the paces for all the subjects marked up, those are 5 paces in the case of Anna that she will be working on during the first 3 school weeks. They are marked up for her and set aside. And then I pulled the score keys that go with these 5 subjects. And for the younger kids, there is often 1 score key for each book, just to make it easier for the kids to score, whereas in the older grades, and even in some of the younger kids, there's only 1 score key that covers 3 paces, as in the case of animal science, or here we have science, and this 1 score key covers all 3 paces. So it will still have each page and we'll have the answers here, but it's not 1 score key per pace. It's 1 score key for these 3 paces. So basically these are the 5 paces she will be working on over the course of the next 3 weeks. And then she has the score keys to go with them, and these are tests from them. So what I do with this, I take these books and I don't put them back in the boxes where they are stored. So the paces had been stored in these boxes. You can see I have the paces here and then the score keys. Well, I already pulled out 1 pace out of each box, and they are sorted here by number, so ascending. This was 13, 14, all the way up to 24, and then it has the score keys for 13 through 15, and so on. So I already pulled the score keys out, I already pulled the first pace out. I'm not going to put the paces back in the boxes now because that would mean that these boxes get a lot of heavy traffic every day. And it would just be a hassle for the child to have to pull them out each day. So what I do is I put the paces that they're currently working on to the left here. So she has her little binder for letters and little notes she wants to keep throughout the school year. She has her notebook in her color, so I know if it's laying around which child's notebook it is. Anna is pink in our house. And then she has the 5 paces that she's currently working on. And then we have a separate storage area over here where I now take her 5 score keys, and these would go into the box for the lower grades. And I will also put her tests in there. So every day she will come and take her score keys out, or I will if I'm the one scoring her work. And in 3 weeks we'll also take the tests out and she can get her tests done and scored. And that way these are separate from the rest of the books. I can keep an eye on them just to make sure that kids aren't looking ahead and peeking at the test or fudging their answers. So those are the 2 ways that you can split your paces up. Basically just realize 12 paces per year. Aim for completing 1 pace every 3 weeks. And you can either be guided by their suggestions of the checkups or simply by taking the page numbers plus the test and dividing that number by 3 and splitting the weeks equally like that.